In a previous video, I mentioned that DENAE and I weren't really doing many portrait shoots anymore. Royal Hajibs wants to know why. Well, my friend Royal Hajibs, as you may or may not know, we moved towns a couple years ago, and as portrait photographers who relied on word of mouth, as well as localized internet traffic, we were basically faced with the prospect of starting over. When we moved to southern Utah, we had zero connections. But there was something else that happened at the same time to affect that, in addition to my own emotional, well, I'll come back to that. But we didn't do portrait photographer as our full-time livelihood, but we were making decent money and getting regular jobs before we moved. And a lot of that was actually through Thumbtack. For those unfamiliar with Thumbtack, it's basically a website that connects consumers with freelance professionals, and we loved Thumbtack. We were able to pick and choose requests for quotes as they came through in our area and only bid on the ones that we wanted to. We were getting regular and good paying work with it, and the asynchronous method of communicating with clients, scheduling jobs, and getting agreements signed through their interface worked super well for my introverted style of doing business. But about the time we moved, Thumbtack went and messed it all up. Instead of allowing us to bid how much we wanted to and when we wanted to, they moved to a model where you basically automatically accept jobs that met certain business rules that you set up in advance. They wanted customers to get bids instantly and not have to wait. And it makes sense, right? I mean, we live in a world of Amazon Prime and instant gratification. If I want to hire a plumber, I want to spend no more than a few minutes online searching for one and have an appointment booked by the time the kettle finishes boiling. But that meant that we could no longer choose jobs we bid on a case-by-case basis. And since for us, we just could never allow someone to just automatically schedule something on our calendar because it changed every week, it became unviable. So those are some of the physical challenges that we faced in continuing the portraiture work. But even more than that, there were some emotional reasons. Now, DENAE is really good at family portrait work, and you guys know she's a people person. And in addition to once working in a photo studio, she also used to be a cosmetologist. So helping people to look their best and photographing that, she's perfectly cut out for that situation. But for me, I was just getting sick of it. And really, in addition to having little desire to go out and get the web presence built up again in a new locale, and also trying to get the word of mouth connections going to jumpstart things again, I realized that there were also things that I just didn't like about portrait photography. The first reason is that trends matter to our clientele, and trends are dictated a lot by social media. As an example, for a while there, maybe it's still like this, every family wanted a shot of them all on the master bed. I just was not only no good at setting up shots like that, but I felt like I was chasing someone else's style or copying a trend. I think photos like this can look great, don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to sound cynical or critical of these type of photos. They're popular for a reason, but I just get tired of creating photos for someone else's Facebook page that, in a sense, were meant to compete with all of their friends and family's Facebook portrait photography. And probably in other areas of the world, this type of portrait photography would not be a thing. But if you do portrait work in this area where we live and you get hired, it's hard to be original. One thing I tried to do to combat that, I went through a little phase of compositing more stylized or humorous family photos, but no one wanted to hire us to do those. No real big surprise there. Two, the second thing is that I got tired of posing. It's really important these days, if you do portraiture, that you call yourself a lifestyle photographer. And your photos aren't supposed to look posed, but really they are posed unposing.
So you need to walk. Sorry guys. Yeah, that way. Go, ready, go.
Walk. Whoa, whoa. Walk.
The goal here is to try really, really hard to look like you're not trying, because while families don't really have pillow fights in their immaculate, well-lit master bedrooms wearing pressed Banana Republic apparel, it appears more natural than a family in denim in front of a painted backdrop in the mall photo studio. I think there are some truly lifestyle portrait photographers out there who are able to follow a family about and get photos that are a little bit more documentary in nature. But I think even for most photographers claiming to do that sort of work, they still end up doing a lot of posing and setup work. It's never truly documentarian, or if it is, it's extremely rare. And I think you have to live in a really big market to find those sorts of jobs. But for me, I'm happiest when I can be a fly on the wall and when the moment finds me, not when I force the moment. I prefer opportunistic styles of photography where if I get a shot I love, it's because I noticed something happening. I was in the right time, the right place with the right camera. and the right gear, not because I created something or forced something. The third thing I dislike about portrait work is that the printing aspect is now removed from the act of taking photos. Families all have the expectation that you will deliver high-res photos for them to take to Costco or Shutterfly, and that they'll print them themselves. If you make a fuss here or try to force them to print through you, which I have tried in the past, they just go with someone else. They will always be able to find a portrait photographer somewhere who will give them whatever they want in return for work. So when that didn't work, I had in our agreement that they could print themselves, but only at one of our preferred or recommended print providers. But there really is no way to enforce that, and I have very little faith that when they saw the pricing differences for those different services, that families would use the services we told them to use. But when we saw our photos printed on walls of these families on occasion and our colors were completely screwed up, it was painful. It no longer represented our work. It had become something else, and the last thing we wanted was for them to tell others that we had created that work for them. So those are the biggest reasons why I stopped doing it, and since then DENAE and I have sort of split off when it comes to professional photography work. I now do event work as often as I can, and by event work I don't mean weddings. It's almost always conferences and corporate events where there's very little, if any, posed work, where I don't use a flash, and it would be frowned upon if I did. Just totally fine for me, as it allows me to just kind of slip into the shadows and disappear. And I just get to document things as they happen, and when it comes to photography, that is what makes me happy. But I do have to say there is one aspect of event photography I can't stand, and that is the step and repeat photos, which are posed. And when that comes with the job, I will either opt out and tell them to get someone to do that part, or try to find someone to do it for me. It's a horrible, horrible part of the job, in my opinion. And while I do miss sharing in the side business with DENAE, like we did when we did portraiture, the photo duels now take the place of at least a small portion of that time that we used to spend on portraiture, and that's way more fun for us anyway, and less stressful. So anyway, those are the reasons I got out of portrait work. I know that for some people they love it and it can work, and I'm not trying to discount or say that the trends out there right now are wrong. People want really just good pictures to document their family and be able to have those memories, and I think it matters a little bit less what the trends say. For me, it's just an issue of shooting the way that I'm told or expected to, that I struggle with, and also just working with families and really being dependent on getting them in a situation where I can shoot their vision. I don't enjoy that process at all. That's not what photography is to me, or what how I find fulfillment out of it. But I do know that there are plenty of others who do. I'm not discounting that at all. But I'd really love to hear what your experiences have been. Have any of you portrait or lifestyle photographers been able to sell truly documentary style family photography? If so, what are the secrets to your success, if you don't mind sharing? And what about printing? Have you been able to enforce the criteria, or did you just give up and give them the print license like we did? But that's all I got for you for now, guys. Remember to do some good with your cameras, and we'll talk to you again real soon.